Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Chris Control, and we are live from the 704. Once again for episode 276 of the A15 Exchange. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, we've got UFC 322 on the tab. It was a knockout fest until the two most hype fights of the night, which were absolute maulings. We've got the NFL, which has been, relatively pedestrian, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be honest with you. However, college football, boy, oh boy, oh boy, what another great, interesting week it was in college football. We had Heisman candidates rise. We had the greatest choke job potentially of all time via South Carolina. Rest in peace to Shane Beamer. Whole 9 yards. All right, whole 9 yards. And then, of course, we got some stuff to talk about basketball-wise. ATP Finals, another synchronized finals in the Roundup. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here, unfortunately, to announce for the first time maybe in this show's history, really nothing happened in entertainment worth me talking about. I'm going to be honest. So there's no entertainment segment today, but we do have all of the sports. All right, we are truly a sports show, sports podcast today. So yes, as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And as always, everything you're looking for in this life can be found in my description. All right, timestamps embedded in the video, also in the description. And of course, social media in my outro, also in the description. But without further ado, let's get 276 going. And of course, we are kicking it off with the UFC. 322, live from, I believe we were in MSG, right? We were in Madison Square, I believe. And it was a big one. All right, it was a big one. It was a monster card from top to bottom. It was absolutely stacked. You could have started, this was one of those where prelims were so good that you could have watched it all the way through. It was one of those. It was an amazing, amazing card. And honestly, it lived up to the hype. Okay, but as we do, we're going to start from the very top. The top billing, Islam Makhachev taking on Jack Della Madonna. Who was going to be the new welterweight king? Could JDM keep his streak going? Could Islam tie the iconic Anderson the Spider Silva's 16-fight win streak in the UFC and cement his spot, as one of the greatest fighters of all time? We were going to have those questions answered, and I'm going to be honest, it was the result we kind of somewhat all expected. Islam absolutely dominated this. I have never seen a fighter as dejected as I saw JDM before that 5th round. There was defeat written all over his face. He just had nothing for him. Simply put, had nothing for him. He's good. Good wrestler, good JDM, we know. Became the welterweight champ for a reason. But Islam is pound for pound king for a reason. And we saw it. We saw it. He is the best in the world. Khabib's true hair. And he simply put, he smothered JDM in this, and then that was it. That was it. Unanimous decision. He wins the belt at 170. 170's got murderers. All right, it's murderers row, but Islam is the best of the best. I don't know who's beating him. JDM, great champion, but, you're facing an all-time great. That's just how it goes. Valentina and Wei Li are two of the greatest female fighters of all time in their respective weight classes. However, Val just simply little sissed or bullied Zhang Wei Li in this fight. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Once again, very similar. Just a mauling. An absolute mauling from Val. Size difference was just simply too much for Wei Li. Nothing against Wei Li. She chased greatness. It just was not going to happen. Chev was just too big. Just simply put, too big, handle business. That's why she is one of the greatest, top 5, really, let's be real, top 3, and she might not be 3 female fighters to ever live. So yeah, Val does what she does. Wei Li, I think she'll be fine. I don't think she really took any career-altering damage in this one. So that's what it is. Let's talk about some of the more exciting fights, though. Let's keep going down the line and get to the KO fest, yeah? The last KO of the night was Michael Morales taking out Sean Brady. The welterweight division was absolute insanity throughout this entire card. Okay, it was a highlight for the division. And yeah, Brady was on the cusp of a title shot. Morales was looking to make a statement, and he did that. A first-round knockout of Sean put him to sleep. It won't be the last time I say this, like I said throughout this segment. But it was a very impressive performance. Morales is dangerous. All right, is he good enough to beat Islam? I don't know. But he might be due for a title shot next. Let's just put it like that. Keeping it going. Carlos Paredes KO Leon Edwards. Leon looked good until he didn't. And so Paredes just he has this somebody called him the Alex Pereira of the welterweight division. He just has that one hitter quitter power. You know what I mean? He's got that one hitter quitter. He's got the sticks of dynamite in his fist that makes you go down. All right, he will blow your chin up, and he blew Leon's up. Put him down. Sleep. Slumped him. Iced him. However you want to call it. All right. Carlos, very, very impressive performance. It was the most impressive of all of the fighting nerds, as we're going to talk about what happened literally right next. Bo Nickel with a statement. A statement against Vieira. An absolute statement. He dominated that fight, by the way. Up to the leg kick KO, which was absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if it won KO of the night, but in my opinion, it was. It was gorgeous. Bo went out and made an absolute statement. All right. Sometimes when these high prospects lose, that's the end of the world. That's it. You fall apart, and these guys are not the same, But credit where credit's due to Bo. He showed back up, put the work in, put his head down. He's been in the NAF wrestling as well, back in the tool shed. Comes back out here, gets the job done against Vieira with a beautiful, beautiful leg kick. Makes a statement. All right. He is back to being a contender and one to watch. It was a very impressive performance. We will be watching Bo Nickel's next move. BSD iced Benel in 15 seconds. Benny, my boy, it's time to join that gray hair, and it's time to hang him up. Okay, the leave the game before the game has left you, and the game has left you. That's all I gotta say about that. BSD might be next up for that lightweight title, though. He's on a little bit of a run here. Wouldn't be shocked. And to continue to round this up, Rodriguez UD's Kopolov. So yet another. This is the part where the prospects didn't have the best time. Okay, Rodriguez gets rid of Kopolov. You've got Aaron subbing Tracy Cortez. And then you had Malcolm Wellmacher. Everybody prepared to, mount him as the next big star maybe in welterweight. And then on 2 days' notice, he gets an opponent. UFC finds somebody. And he better get a deal after this because it was a hell of a performance from Ethan Ewing. It was a hell of a performance. I think Wellmacher tried to go to the body a little bit too much, and Ewing was just outstriking him. He was getting to the head. He was just landing way too much for the fight that Wellmacher was trying to fight. Then he got tired, and that was it. All right, Ewing steals Wellmacher's hype. He looks like he might be one to watch. And yeah, it was a great UFC 322. Plenty of finishes, plenty of KOs. Main events didn't really work out, weren't the most exciting considering the hype that was around those two fights. But overall, it was one of the best cards of the year, in my opinion. Uncle Dana and Co. delivered. Now, let us talk about the week 12 of college football. Yes, week 12. It feels like this season just started, but here we are. Okay, and it started on Friday. Clemson and Louisville. Louisville, again, we say this every week. Not really surprised, but my gosh. Y'all played one of the worst games of the year. This was a horrible, horrible game. This was Sicko's game of the week. Sicko's game of the week. Rainveer, you've been a hero. You've been a hero at some points in this season. You were an absolute supervillain. Dr. Doom level supervillain. Like Prime Doom. Not like anti-hero Valeria Doom. I'm talking Doom. I'm talking Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos, like the 2 missed field goals. Louisville had a chance to win this game. Plenty of chance to win this game, to put this game away, and they flunked it. Absolutely flunked it. Rainveer, 2 missed field goals. We had turnovers. Clemson wasn't pretty in this one either, though I got to give credit where credit's due. Randall played a great game. He had 105 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. That move to running back has paid off. Sammy Brown continues to show why he is going to be one of the best linebackers when he decides to enter the draft. 11 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 TFLs for Sammy. Those were the 2 lone bright spots on what it was a horrible, horrible day for Clemson. But you know what? A win is a win. All right, a win is a win. Louisville gets clipped. But are we really surprised? Iowa came to the Coliseum. It was wet weather. All right, it was raining. It was. You remember how Oregon got their initiation versus Iowa in Kinnick last week? This was USC's initiation, and they also passed, okay? We also passed. It was rough. It was listen, we were down 21-10 at halftime. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't sure if we were going to pull this off, but USC showed something that I feel like they've been lacking. They showed some guts. This team has been through and it's gotten a lot of flack about how they handle adversity and the claims and the hatred, but they answer the bell. In this game, they answer the bell when they could have crumbled. And maybe other teams we've seen with USC recently would have crumbled in the circumstance. But they didn't in this game. All right, they came back from that 11-point deficit at halftime. Mekhi Lemon was a big reason why. Once again, Harnell Tate, Mekhi, Jordan Tyson, whatever order you want to put them. All right, but just three absolute future superstars at receiver that are coming into the NFL in the next season. 10 receptions, 153, and a touchdown for Mekhi. He's, again, needs to be in Biletnikoff conversations, and for some reason he is not, which I don't believe is possible. Thanos, oh my goodness, Jakeem Stewart, what a game he had. Didn't have a sack, but had that deflection pick. He was just, it was a nuisance. All right, he was a nuisance, had a big impact on the game. He looked like the future star USC is expecting him to be. And like I said, my Via wasn't his perfect game, but again, when you find Mekhi Lemon and let him do what he does, and USC overcame the adversity that they had to in this game, the defense locked in. Happy days in the Collie. Sets up a very, very big game versus Oregon next week, and Dante Moore. Again, Oregon will be the heavy favorite there, but we will see. All right, we will see. USC, congrats. Oh boy, South Carolina. Oh boy. Yeah. Where do we start here? This looked like I was going to be talking about the biggest upset of the week. South Carolina finally played like we expected South Carolina to play, and they upset Texas A&M. That's what I was expecting. I was in shock. We were talking crazy. Twitter's making jokes, the whole nine. Texas A&M is down 30-3 at home against South Carolina. Shane Beamer shaved his job, dead in the water. We might even praise Sellers about being a solid quarterback. Nick Harbor was getting off. He had 3 receptions, 102 and a touchdown. It was happy days for the Gamecocks. I don't know what Mike Elko did in that halftime for that speech, but he completely unlocked this Texas A&M team. I don't know if the spirit of Manziel was there. I don't know if Manziel went in there and said something crazy. I don't know. But whatever happened at halftime for Texas A&M flipped the switch. And one of the greatest comebacks we've seen in college football is what occurred directly after. It was insane. Marcel Reed went from, oh my goodness, why did we ever hype this dude in the first half, to this is the Heisman Trophy winner in the second half. 439 yards for Marcel Reed in this game. He had 3 touchdowns. He had those 2 picks in the first half, and they completely wiped his slate and was, clinical. Over 200 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, I think, as well. Those all came in the second half. Just clinical. A clinical performance from Marcel Reed. This was his Heisman moment. Leading this team back in the way that he did. It was a beautiful performance. All right, Casey Concepcion, 7 receptions, 158. ABR, who was clutch after that bad drop that looked like it was going to doom TAMU. He goes and gets the go-ahead with 4 receptions, 139, and a touchdown. It was, again, Elko has changed the culture at Texas A&M. He has changed this team. This is not the Texas A&M we're used to seeing, bar those special years with Manziel. This is a different TAMU. Different. A&M is not, the battered Aggie syndrome we've become accustomed to. I'm going to be honest, it might be slipping away. This team has come with something to prove. They play with an edge. They play to finish, and they play to the bell. They play to the whistle. And what else do we need to see from them this year to prove that they're a contender? That's all I will say. They have proven that they are one of college football's elite this season. They are one to watch. And yeah, it was a hell of a comeback win. One of the greatest comebacks we have ever seen. Marcel Reed for Heisman. Oklahoma and Bama. Bama, for fun fact, after this game is now 1-5 this century versus OU. And now 2-0 with them in the SEC. Do you sure you want to keep them in, Bama? You sure you want to make that vote? Yeah, OU gets it done here, 23-21. The Bowen Bros had a day, all right? The Bowen Bros had a day. Peyton, of course, with the clutch pass deflection to close the game. And then, of course, Eli really set the tone, picking off Ty Simpson with that pick 6. And Bama I never really felt like Bama really recovered from getting behind in this game. It just felt like they were playing from behind. They were never comfortable. They never got into that rhythm we've seen Bama get into the past couple weeks. They just did not have it. All right, that Oklahoma defense was lights out. Kip Lewis 2 sacks in this game. They were given. I mean, I want to say because Ty didn't have this like awful game, but they definitely was like a little bit of an exposure game. It was a little bit of he got exposed a little bit. Bama got exposed offensively, in my opinion, a little bit. I think a lot of people were really buying in to the Ty Simpson hype, and this was kind of like welcome back to earth. All right, this Oklahoma defense brought that Bama offense back down to earth. Ryan Williams is just not that guy. All right, let's just call it what it is. At this point, he is not that guy. Okay, he is just a regular dude with a great gimmick. He had good PR last year. He had that one great play. But besides that, I don't see anything remarkable with him as a wide receiver. And be honest with what he's done since, with the back half of his freshman year, and then whatever you want to call what has been his sophomore season, it's just he's not that guy. He just well and truly is not that guy. And yeah, Bama puts themselves in a very sticky situation now. Still will likely make the playoff, probably going to make the SEC championship, but did that Iron Bowl just escalate in importance with them after losing here against Oklahoma. Oklahoma, huge win. All right, huge win in terms of getting them into the playoff, staying with the SEC and staying again with the traditional SEC power, with the traditional Big 12 power. Now come over Georgia, Texas. Okay, the big headlining matchup this week. And well, it's over for Texas. All right, it is over. Goodbye, sayonara, Texas. Yeah, Georgia just has their number. Georgia's just better than them. This was a game. This was a levels to this. They are levels to this game, and Texas is not on Georgia's level. Gunnar Stockton played a monster game. 258 yards, 5 touchdowns. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 touchdowns for Stockton in this game. He did have that one pick, but easily forgivable. All right, with the game that Stockton had, we might need to have some conversations about him very soon about where he ranks as a quarterback. Noah Thomas was borderline unstoppable in the red zone. He had 2 TDs. KJ Bolden lived up to that 5-star tagline, picking off fellow 5-star in that same class, Arch Manning. So, happy days. All right, happy days for Georgia. Dominated. All right, Kirby completely outcoached Sark. Texas had 23 yards rushing in this game. 23. You're not winning like that. You cannot win in college football like that. And yeah, that was it. All right, that was it. Georgia gets it done. Go Dogs. And speaking of great running games, that brings me to our next game. All right, that brings me to our next game. Notre Dame takes out Pittsburgh 37-15. It was dominant. I'm going to be honest with you. It was very, 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 very dominant. And of course, it was in large part due to that man. The best, and I quote, the best, and I quote, the best running back in college football, Jeremiah Love. Yeah, no, he is that guy. Okay, he is that guy. That spin move was disgusting. All right, 147 yards and a tutty for Jeremiah Love in this game. He is, like I said, many times, the best running back in the country. CJ Carr had 3 touchdowns. He had the hat trick in this game, but he did 2 picks. All right, 2 picks. Give and take. All right. Malachi Fields played a great game, though. 7 receptions, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Burnham had 2 sacks. Johnson had a pick 6. It was a complete game for Notre Dame. All right. They boat raced Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh tried to get a little bit back at the end. Literally scored a complete garbage time as the time expired in this game. Scored a garbage time to make this look a little bit closer than it was. It was not. All right, 37-15 is a little bit generous to them. Notre Dame dominated. They are looking good, all right, down the stretch here in this season. Georgia Tech survived. That's the best way I can put this. The Yellow Jackets survived this week, okay? They played a 1-9 Boston College team that they were expected to boat race, and they merely survived this game, okay? It was an 11-point comeback from in the 4th quarter, by the way, of this game. Haynes King finishes with 424 yards and a touchdown. By the way, absolute banger. I'm about to read off some of these stats. It was gorgeous, all right, for you stat keepers. Horsley, 107 yards rushing and a touchdown. Georgia Tech had 257 and 3 touchdowns rushing as a team. Malik Rutherford had 5 receptions, 121 and a touchdown. Eric Rivers got off. He had 7, 119. Lundgren for Boston College had 362 and 2 touchdowns. Turbo Richard, All right, is how I know it's Turbo Richard, but I'm calling him Turbo Richard because it sounds elegant. All right, 141 and 2 touchdowns for Turbo. Reed Harris had 142 and a touchdown. I'm not done because Lewis Bond had 8 receptions and 106 yards. All right, it was a offensive clinic. An unexpected offensive clinic. I mean, actually, Georgia Tech and Boston College kind of makes sense. But, G-Tech was supposed to handle business here like Miami did State, for example, this week. And they didn't do that. They didn't do that. They barely survived. But, hey, it's survive and advance. This late in the season, especially with the way the ACC is moving. All right? It is survive and it is an advance. All right? And Georgia Tech does just that. Last feature game of the week is Ole Miss and Florida. Similar. Ole Miss survived. Mostly thanks to Kawan Lacey having a career day, but I mean survive. Florida had them in danger. On the road, by the way. In Ole Miss, in Mississippi. Had them on the ropes. But Mississippi found a way. All right, Ole Miss, they found a way, and it was through Kawan Lacey. He had 224. Not one, not two. Take off your hats, ladies and gentlemen, and throw them in your room or wherever you are, because that's a hat trick for Lacey. It was the best. As great as Jeremiah Love, and I just glazed him, not too long ago. Lacey had the best running back performance of the week, and one of the best offensive performances by one player this week. He took over this game, especially late, got the 2 touchdowns. That helped put Ole Miss over the top here. Great work. All right, great work. Running the ball is hugely, hugely, hugely important, as we've seen here late in the playoffs and just traditionally once it gets a little bit colder here in football. But Ole Miss showing off they can do that bodes well for them. All right, bodes really well for them. Lacey, great performance. I know we talk about Chambers all the time. He had 300 yards, but again, this was a Kawan Lacey game. They get it done and survive the Gators at home. Rounding this college football segment up, Michigan also survived this week. They barely, they needed a Dom Zavada walk-off to take down Northwestern. Navy beats USF because, again, nobody wants that group of 5, group of 6. Nobody wants that G5, G6 playoff spot. Nobody wants it. I guess James Madison has it now. But, whoever gets it ends up losing the next week. We're in a state of chaos right there with that. Arizona took care of Cincinnati. Big win for Zona. Noah Fafita. Big game for him. Cincinnati. So hot, so cold. All right, pick one. Please pick one. You're a fringe team. The fringiest. All right, I dare say. But, ladies and gentlemen, that was CFB, which brings me now to the National Football League. Let's talk about the NFL. It's not getting any better for Jets. As y'all are back to your losing ways because the Pats are good again. All right, the Pats are good again. No Glazing Drake this week. This was Trevion Henderson. All right, this was all T. Hendo. 93 yards and the hat trick for Henderson. A lot of hat tricks this week in football. But Pats get it done here, 27-14. I won't elongate on this one. A.D. Mitchell had a bad debut in this game. Great job getting open, but he could not catch a cold right now. It was ugly. All right, so Jets hoping to get a little bit better of a performance. All right, both sides of that trade, not the best debuts with Sauce and then 80 this week. Not the best. All right, but Pats get it done, but we expected that. Miami and Washington. Why does the NFL continue to send their absolute worst abroad to help convert these fans? Send the absolute worst. This was malpractice. This game was malpractice. This was the NFL sickos game of the week, all right? Because it was just sickening to watch. Absolutely sickening. The overtime, I don't even want to call it play calling because calling what happened in overtime at the goal line and just throughout would be a disservice to the word play calling. I don't know what we watched. It wasn't even really American football at certain points. All right. This was the no good, very bad, ugly game of the week. But Miami decides that they will, in fact, win this game after the Commanders were like, no, you haven't. And then Miami would be like, no, you win this game. All right. Nobody wanted to win this. And the Dolphins said, fine, I'll take it. And that's what happened. Good gosh, let's all cleanse ourselves of this game. The Jags beat the brakes off the Chargers. I didn't see this coming. I'm not going to lie to you. I did not see this coming. They beat the brakes off these boys. Beat the brakes off them. All right? Running the ball. 192 yards, 4 touchdowns as a team for the Jags. 3 different people, Tootin, Etienne, T-Law, all get in the box, running the ball, and yeah, Jags take care of business. All right, this felt very cathartic, I'm sure, for Jacksonville fans. Been a rough with the injuries, the losses, the disappointment from where you started the season. It's been rough, so this felt probably very, very cathartic for you. Chicago and Minnesota. Of course, the big headlining matchup between Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy, two players linked by their draft class. Of course, McCarthy brought all that promise with the game-winning drive in Week 1 to beat the Bears. However, these two seasons have gone, let's just say, rather different of late. Chicago's been historically clutch. Minnesota has been trying to figure out what they're doing now with JJ back. And, well, it was much of the same. All right, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yo, this was a great quarterback duel. It was not, okay? Caleb and JJ, for the most part, were either bad or bang average. But something about these two when it's winning time. All right, they might be the two clutchest young quarterbacks in the game. JJ leads Minnesota down the field, finds the douche man himself who gets the go-ahead, or so we thought, because Chicago gets the ball, and then Caleb Williams does what he's done the past 3 weeks, leads the Bears into field goal percentage. Cairo Santos hits the game winner, and the Bears get a huge, monumental win here in the NFC North and take down the Vikings 19-17, the cardiac Chicago Bears. All right, they continue to be the clutchest team, which feels very unnatural to call the Bears anything positive. But yeah, they're the clutchest team in the league right now. All right, stop giving them the ball with 2 minutes to go in the game on the line. They will take you out. Houston, also, similar situation, not between two great young quarterbacks, but Davis Mills is balling. All right, and he's still balling this week, even though it wasn't a great performance like last week, still did what had to be done. All right, 274 and a touchdown, got Houston in field goal percentage. Once again, another game winner here. This one with Wright. Nico Collins was big down the line here for the Texans. Again, you need your number one guy to step up when your starting quarterback is out and still be that number one. Nico did that. He had 992 and a tutty. Daniil Hunter continues to be on a rampage as of late. Had a 1.5 sacks in this game. And yeah, Texans are able to beat the Titans. Titans, good fight. All right, good fight, which is about the goodest thing I can say about y'all. Obviously, y'all are in a clear rebuild. It's not been good this year, but, you know, there are some positives even you can take out of a 16-13 game. Green Bay and the Giants, all right, came down to the wire as well. Jordan Love got knocked out of this game. All right, Malik Willis had to come in, and they went perfect. All right, went perfect. Then Jordan came back in. He finishes the game with 174 and 2 touchdowns, both of those to Christian Watson. And it works out. All right, it works out for the Packers as they do get the win here 27-2. Michael Parsons has 1.5 sacks. Jameis Winston was solid, all right, in fill for Jackson Dart, who is still out with that concussion. But Jalen Hyatt has been a hell of a bust, and I'm not really surprised, to be honest. If I'm being honest, I was never overly high on him. He ran one route at Tennessee, literally a go. It was just a go, Hendon bomb it to him, and it worked out. All right, it worked out, but he's not this like game-changing speedster, and he's not this like elite route runner or this elite hands guy. He doesn't have this like one definitive tool. He's fast, but he ain't like this like, you know, cheetah fast or, you know, even like waddle fast in my opinion. So he lacks a lot of things that make a even good to solid receiver. And then I don't know what the fuck he was doing, excuse my French, on that route. I can't even put that on Jameis, that pick, that end of the game. He made the exact throw you're supposed to make a route on a corner route, and Hyatt just stopped. I guess he thought because the DB was trailing or kind of in front of him, should I say, he was just going to sit. But you can't just do that suddenly, not looking at your quarterback, seeing what's happened, because the quarterback's anticipating you going through that route, not just sitting. So, again, I don't know what Hyatt was doing on that play, but it cost the Giants ultimately at least sending this to OT, and the Packers get out of New York with a win. Pittsburgh takes care of Cincinnati. This one just fell apart for Cincy. It was looking good, and then it didn't. All right, and it resulted in a bunch of defensive TDs for Pittsburgh. Duggar with the pick six. Pierre with the fumble recovery. Kenneth Gainwell then just decided, yeah, this game is absolutely over. And, yeah, they put this thing to bed. Impressive performance from the Pittsburgh defense. All right, they locked in that second half and got it done. Josh Allen. Josh Allen heard y'all talking. All right, Josh Allen heard y'all talking crazy. Okay, heard y'all talking crazy. This was a big matchup for the Bills taking on the Bucs, who they're very good. They're not elite, they're not proper contenders, but they're very good. Right? They're not a Super Bowl contender, but they're a good team. That's what they are. That's the baseline they've kind of created now. And yeah, if you're a gatekeeper to the contenders, then hey, Bills pass the gatekeep. Josh Allen, however, was all parts of the MVP today. 357 and 6 touchdowns. Good gracious. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 touchdowns for the former reigning defending MVP. Sean Tucker was the leader on that Bucs offense, had 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Baker had his moments where it looked like, yo, Baker is the coldest. He also just didn't have that impressive of a game, to be honest with you. And especially in comparison to what Josh was doing on the other side. So, yeah, Bills get it done here, 44-32. Impressive win. Carolina and Atlanta. It went to OT. But, ladies and gentlemen, the Carolina Panthers are once again back over 500. 6 wins this season for the Panthers. Things are changing. Bryce Young looked like he got injured in this game, but ended up being okay. He finishes, 448 yards. I think that's a career high. 3 touchdowns. T-Mac. This is what they got when they drafted him. 8 receptions, 132 TDs. Of course, that Tommy Tremble 54-yarder is what really did the Falcons in there in overtime. You got to tackle. I don't know why they kept trying to go for the strip and then go high and just let Tremble keep pushing them on for 20 extra yards that they didn't have to give up and put Panthers in field goal position. Didn't have to. But again, you got to tackle. Again, it's a lost art in the modern game. But like I said, Bryce goes off here, gets it done. Bijan did have over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drake London continued to do Drake London things, 7-119. But it was not enough. All right, it was not enough. Falcons defense let the offense down a little bit. Penix got knocked out of this game, but even still, plenty of opportunity for the Falcons to win this. But the Panthers, they wanted it more. All right, simply put, they wanted it more. Back over 500 and still in the playoff race. Now we are back for the afternoon slate and to close episode 276. So let's keep it going. All right. I have many questions about this San Francisco-Arizona game. San Fran, by the way, Brock Purdy's back. He's back in a big way. It's a different team. This 49ers team is a different team when Brock Purdy is under the helm. All right? I got to give credit to Purdy. He balled out, by the way, in this game. Had 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. CMC continues to be a one of one. I mean, there are running backs that can catch the ball, obviously, especially in the modern league. There is nobody that is Christian McCaffrey. He is a one of one. 121 total. 3 touchdowns for CMC. Jacoby Brissett broke the completions record for the NFL in this game, and y'all got 20-pieced. How does that happen? How does your quarterback have 47 completions, over 400 yards? Michael Wilson, Mr. Sophia Smith, had 15 receptions, 185 yards. I'm talking prime Larry Fitz numbers. Trey McBride had 10, 115 and a touchdown, and you lost. And you didn't just lose, you got blown out. That is how bad the Cardinals' defense and how good the 49ers' offense was in this game. Brissett did all of that, and of course playing from behind, so you got to throw the ball a lot. But nonetheless, all right, very, very interesting game here for the 49ers and the Cardinals. However, San Fran handles business, stays alive in that NFC West. Still in the NFC West. Rams, Seahawks, very pivotal matchup. Seahawks have been flying, Darnold balling, JSN having a historic year. But the Rams still so very good, and they're still so very good. They get the win here 21-19. Darnold had the no good, very bad game. You threw 4 picks in this game. 4. We are not going to be singing his praises. It feels like all of the quarterbacks that have had they've turned the corner on their career, all have had that one game this year where they've regressed. Like DJ had that one game where he just regressed back to what we knew. Baker hasn't quite had it yet. Darnold had it here. They've all had that one game where it's this is why they kind of, went through the cycle. But I don't think it's in the world for Seattle. It's a big loss, especially with how competitive that division is right now. But nonetheless, not horrifically surprised. Rams, very talented team. Cam Kitchens had 2 of those picks on Darnold, but you can't do that and expect to win. Can't have your star quarterback throwing 4 interceptions, turning the ball over that much, especially not against the Rams with Stafford on that offense, Puka, so on and so forth, Kyron Williams. Can't do that. You just cannot do that, give them that many chances. And the Rams hold off the Seahawks 21-19. Baltimore and Cleveland. It's just something about like Baltimore and Cleveland are just one of those everybody has that like rival in the NFL that for some reason you always nearly split the series. You know, for whatever strange foreign reason, no matter how bad or good the teams are, you always almost or you do split the series. And it happened. All right, the voodoo was in full effect, and the voodoo's name was Myles Garrett. Because this is yet another game where Myles Garrett is the best player on the planet, and his team loses. He was in full Defensive Player of the Year mode. He had 4 sacks in this game, 5 TFLs, and they lost. All right, and they lost. Lamar plays his worst game of the season. Those 2 picks. I mean, it's terrible out there. King Henry had to carry the load. He only had 103 yards, though. Did have a touchdown. Kyle Hamilton played a great game as well, by the way. I got to give a shout out on the defensive side for him. 9 tackles, 1 sack, 3 TFLs, 2 pass deflections. Hopefully his shoulder's okay. Came up a little gimpy towards the end of that game to finish it off, so hopefully he's fine. But yeah, Myles Garrett plays out of his mind. Dylan Gabriel gets knocked out of this game with a concussion. So Shedeur makes his debut. Throws a pick to Nate Wiggins. Has some moments where it's like, okay, it's there. Has some moments where it's like, this is why you've been the backup. So nonetheless, I don't think it was any worse than what, DG's been doing. So, interesting situation now for the Browns. Shedeur will have a chance, especially with DG now in concussion protocol. We will see. But yeah, Shedeur's going to have his big chance probably next week to see what he can do. Didn't really pass the test here against the Ravens. They get it done 23-16 despite the no good, very bad game from Lamar Jackson. Denver and Kansas City. This was a massive, massive matchup. All right, the only matchup I dare say that was bigger on this week's slate is the one I can't talk about because it's happening in like an hour or 30 minutes between Detroit and Philly, and I will obviously be done filming by the time that game starts. But Kansas City and Denver, huge matchup, basically for of what the AFC West has been. It's been dominated, of course, by the Chiefs. They have been the team of, the decade, however you want to call it. It's been the Mahomes, Reed, Kelsey era in the AFC West. They've dominated, or AFC South, should I say. Or AFC West, yeah. Or no, it's AFC South. It's AFC South, right? It's the AFC South. Now I have to look because I'm gaslighting myself into thinking it's the AFC South. I think I had it right the first time. Y'all are probably screaming at the... It is the AFC West. No, I was right. Okay. AFC West. AFC West. My bad. AFC West. I corrected myself and I was right. Okay. But anyways, AFC West supremacy. Detroit, of course, 8-game win streak. All right, going into this game, could they hold on? At home, could they hold on? Kansas City gave them a hell of a fight. Kelsey was on and popping. He had 991 and a touchdown. But late. It came down late. All right, Bucker, they tie it up. 19-19. Denver trying to drive the ball. KC gets a couple stops here and there. And then a beautiful corner route from Troy Franklin. Again, that Franklin-Nix duo. Honestly, genius draft because they already had the chemistry from Oregon. They were great there. They've been great here in the league. Elevating their play here this year. Finds them on a beautiful corner route. Franklin makes a tremendous, tremendous catch. Puts them in field goal range. They just get in the right area. And it was literally a replay of last year when it was like, yo, this is when we were like, okay, the Broncos have started to turn the corner. 35 yards out. Last year, Chanel blocked it. This year, right through the middle for Will Lutz. And the Denver Broncos make a statement. All right? They issue a statement to the AFC. They issue a statement to the NFL. They are here. They have arrived. They are a team you need to watch and you need to keep mind of. All right? They are here. All right, so shout out to Sean Payton, Bo Nix and Co. Bo had 295. Jaquan McMillan had 2 sacks in this game, by the way, as a defensive back, which is always impressive. But yeah, Lutz is the game winner. And the Broncos are in business. Dark horse no more. Legitimate contender. All right. Despite the offense, they get it done. All right, they get it done. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the roundup and close this show. College basketball is going to kick us off here because there was no racing this week because F1 was on a break. They will be back for Vegas this coming week. But, all right, UConn BYU, big headlining matchup of the weekend. AJ Dybantsa back home in Boston, TD Garden, and of course, UConn coming to town. Big, all right, big. And it was a great game, 86-84. However, UConn gets it done over the projected #1 overall pick, depending on who you're asking. He's one of the big 3, all right? But Dybantsa played a great game. Okay, AJ played a great game. I believe he had 26 and 8 in this game. Did what had to be done, was efficient. He showed the full package. However, UConn had Alex Caravan, Reed Jr., and Silas Damari Jr. all go for 21 points, all right, in this game, and that's going to be hard to beat, all right? That's going to be very hard to beat when you got 3 players go for 63. That's bids very, very well for UConn, who are looking to bounce back. Obviously, didn't get the three-peat last year. Caravan is still there. Still got some good pieces, obviously, as you can see. Still a top 10 team. So, we'll see what Hurley's got. But, yeah, he cooked up against BYU here, and they get the big top 10 win here early. This coming week, we got a huge matchup. We've got ACC Big Ten play kicking off. And, of course, that is headline or ACC, ACC Big Ten, ACC Big 12 as well. Which of course is headlined Champions Classic, Duke, and Kansas. Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, we will be watching. Of course, we're going to be talking about that. All right, but let's talk about the ladies. Because we do still have some superstars. I know Juju's out, but we still got some superstars to talk about. Hannah Hidalgo had one of the greatest games in women's basketball history this past week. She scored 44 points, which is a Notre Dame record. She had 16 steals. Yes, 16 steals. She had a Chris Smooth stat line. I swear. I ain't even going to talk about the rebounds. She had 16 steals. Forget the 40 ball as well. 16 steals is ridiculous. All right? That is absolutely ridiculous. Again, she's a generational beef. Okay? She's the best, stealer of the ball, I guess is what you would call it. I've seen in the women's college basketball game, she's averaged at least, I think, around 4 her entire career. And, 16. Okay, 16. Absolutely inhuman performance from Hidalgo. She, of course, will be in that National Player of the Year running alongside Sarah Strong, who's been an easy 20 and 10 all year for UConn. And I'm going to say something potentially controversial here. I think she's the best player on that UConn team. I know as he gets the headline, she's Paige's girlfriend, former #1 overall recruit. She can shoot the lights out. I think Sarah Strong is the best player on that UConn team, in my opinion. I think what Sarah brings to the table, she is that girl. All right, she is going to be the foundation. If UConn goes back-to-back and Gino gets yet another ring, it will be because of Sarah Strong as the premier player on this team, not because of Azzy, though Azzy still has a big part to play. And, of course, she is one of the top prospects in this coming year's WNBA draft. But, of course, we will talk about all the rest of the women's college basketball game, as we get deeper and deeper in it. Let's talk about the NBA very briefly, all right? Chef Curry is up to no good, okay? He is in the kitchen, and he is cooking with a pot. Word to Drizzy. Back-to-back 45-plus ball games. Honestly, all of the unks were hooping. James Harden was cooking this week. KD was cooking this week. All of the unks. All right, it was very nostalgic for me. All of the people I grew up watching hoop were getting it in. All right, it was a great swan song week for the 2010s because all of them were hooping. No more so than Chef Curry. Like I said, back-to-back 45-plus balls on San Antonio and 2 W's. So, yeah, good stuff from there from Curry. King James is almost back, by the way. Can't wait for that. And, all right, to end off episode 276, we had yet another, one last Sincaras final to end off the year here in the ATP finals after they just kind of bulldozed their everybody. And it was some great tennis. But Yannick was just better today. Not going to, if hands or buts, he was just different gravy today. He was a level above, all right? He was a level above, just a little bit better than Carlos, and that was enough. By the way, second man to ever, all right, actually, first man, I think, ever to do it back-to-back, but does not drop a single set back-to-back years in the ATP Finals and wins it both times. However, Carlos does win that year in #1 as the #1 player in the world here at the end of the year. Both of them had landmark seasons, and they are clearly taking place as the 2 premier players in the sport and have given us a lot of great battles. And they ended us off with one last great battle. So, shout out to Center, shout out to Alcaraz. They gave me plenty to talk about throughout the year, as you could see with the different thumbnails that have featured them throughout the year. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed. We are well into November. It is about time to get big back and eat for Thanksgiving, but we are not there yet. But getting our tempo back, all right? We're getting back here. And the weather's been up and down here in North Carolina. I know it's like good for you. But it's been great. All right, it's been great. All right, so have a great week. Without further ado, Ocho signing off.